They leave too soon, and they return too late. It feels almost like a cruel trick, a rhythm designed to break you. Just when you thought things were moving forward, they pull away. And just when you finally started to heal, they circle back. Why? Because for the avoidant, time isn't just passing minutes. It's a weapon, a shield, a way to control feelings that terrify them. To you, love is closeness, consistency, building brick by brick until something real stands. To them, love is danger. It feels like standing too close to fire. Warm, yes, but burning is always one step away. So when emotions get too intense, when connection feels too heavy, they don't lean in. They retreat. And not slowly, suddenly, abruptly. They leave before you even realize what just happened. One day, they are laughing with you. The next, you're staring at silence. No warning, no explanation, just absence. And here's what most people never understand. Leaving isn't just an accident. It's part of their survival pattern. They leave too soon because deep down they believe that if they don't cut the connection first, you will. Better to flee than to be left. Better to close the door than risk someone slamming it in their face. This is the secret logic of the avoidant. It doesn't make sense to your heart, but to theirs, it's the only way to feel safe. Because closeness for them isn't safety, it's exposure, it's risk, it's standing under a sky that could collapse at any second. So they run. And here's the part that hurts most. They don't just run from you, they run from themselves, from the ache of needing anyone, from the shame of desiring intimacy. When they were taught it was never safe. That's why their exits always feel premature. They leave when things are good. They leave when love is just starting to settle. They leave when you least expect it. Because to them, leaving too soon feels like leaving just in time. But what they don't realize is that timing always has a cost. And that cost doesn't show up when they're gone. It shows up when they return. Because the avoidant always returns. Not because they've changed, but because silence isn't the relief they thought it would be. The quiet that felt safe becomes unbearable. The distance that promised freedom becomes a prison. The relief of leaving turns into the ache of missing. But by the time they realize it, you've already carried the weight of their absence. You've already cried, doubted, blamed yourself. You've already learned to live without them. So when they show up, it feels late, too late, because while they were finding safety in distance, you were finding strength in letting go. This is the hidden tragedy of avoidant timing. Their fear pulls them away before love can root itself, and their longing pulls them back after love has already been wounded. To you, it feels like betrayal. To them, it feels like survival. It's not that they don't care. It's that their timing is governed by fear, not by love. You see them leave, and you wonder if you meant anything. You see them return, and you wonder if it's real this time. But for them, both are true. Yes, you matter. Yes, the connection is real. But no, they don't know how to stay with it. Because staying feels unsafe. Leaving feels safer. Until leaving hurts more than staying ever did. This is why their timing feels like betrayal. Because just as you open your heart, they run. And just as you start to close it, they return. It's not your imagination. It's the rhythm of their fear. And here's the secret most people never realize. The avoidant doesn't actually choose too soon or too late. They're not plotting. They're not strategizing. They're reacting. Reacting to the alarms in their body. Reacting to the panic of needing someone. Reacting to the shame of longing for closeness. And when those alarms quiet, when the shame fades, when the loneliness gets too loud, they come back. But by then, Time has already done its damage. You've spent nights questioning yourself. You've replayed every conversation. You've carried the silence like it was your fault. So when they knock on your door again, they are not returning to the same place. Because while they were running from fear, you were living inside the wound of abandonment. Two different timelines, two different realities, two different costs. And that's why their return feels late. Because the time it took for them to feel ready was the very time that broke you. For the avoidant, timing is protection. For you, timing is devastation. And this is where the tragedy of love with an avoidant lives. Not in whether they care, not in whether they come back, but in the fact that they can never align their timing with yours. Because your heart seeks connection, while theirs fears it. Your heart trusts consistency, while theirs leans on escape. Your heart beats in presence, while theirs beats in absence. Two rhythms, two clocks, never in sync. And yet, the connection still exists. That's why they come back. That's why you can't forget. That's why the cycle doesn't break. It's not that love isn't there. It's that fear interrupts the timing. Love needs to grow. And until that fear is faced, until they learn to stay through discomfort instead of running from it, the timing will always betray the bond, leaving too soon, returning too late, and in between, two hearts that ache for each other, but live on different clocks. If you've ever wondered, why do they leave right when things are good? You're not alone. It feels like sabotage. It feels like punishment. It feels like rejection. But in the avoidance body, it feels like survival. See, what most people don't understand is that love for the avoidant isn't just love. It's danger. It's risk. It's exposure. Every moment of closeness activates an old wound. But survival always has a price, and it's often paid in the relationships they never truly get to keep. So when the avoidant leaves too soon, they are not rejecting you. They are protecting themselves. And when they return too late, it's not because you weren't enough. It's because their timing was never about you. It was always about their fear. Fear of staying, fear of needing, fear of trusting love, more than distance. And until they face that fear, their rhythm won't change. Leave too soon, return too late, over and over again. A cycle that only breaks when they finally learn that intimacy isn't danger, that closeness isn't fire, that love doesn't have to mean loss. But until then, their timing will always feel off. Their exits will always cut deep, and their returns will always arrive when your heart has already learned how to survive without them. Because that's the secret of avoidant timing. It protects them in the moment, but it costs them the very thing they were running from: connection, belonging, and love that lasts. When the avoidant leaves, you feel abandoned, but when they leave, they feel relief. And that's the hardest thing to hold. That what shatters you suits them, because their nervous system was built on contradiction. Closeness should feel safe, but to them, closeness feels like a trap. Distance should feel lonely, but to them, distance feels like freedom. It's upside down. It's backwards. It's painful. But for the avoidant, this backward logic is the only one they've ever known. So when things grow intense, when the relationship feels too close, their body goes into alarm mode. It's not a thought. It's a reflex. Pull away. Shut down. Disappear. It doesn't matter. If you've given them no reason to fear, it doesn't matter. If you've proven your loyalty over and over again, their body remembers something that tells them love is dangerous. So they leave, and the leaving feels like oxygen. It feels like escape. It feels like safety. For a moment. Because here's the cruel trick: the relief never lasts. The silence that once felt soothing slowly turns heavy. The distance that once felt freeing starts to ache. The calm that once felt safe turns into emptiness. And when the emptiness grows too loud, when the loneliness becomes unbearable, that's when they think of you again. Not because they suddenly stopped fearing closeness, not because their attachment style has changed, but because the pain of distance now outweighs the fear of intimacy. This is the invisible clock inside the avoidant. Ticking, 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 counting the moments they can tolerate closeness, counting the moments they can tolerate distance. It's a cycle that always repeats. Closeness brings fear. Fear creates distance. Distance brings relief. Relief turns to emptiness. Emptiness brings longing. Longing draws them back. And so they circle, in and out, back and forth. Too soon, too late. The wound that says, if I depend on you, I will be hurt. If I trust you, I will be betrayed. If I need you, I will be left. And when that wound is touched, the avoidance nervous system screams. It doesn't whisper. It doesn't gently warn. It panics. Get out. Get safe. Get distance. This is why they leave too soon. It's not about you. It's about their body saying, closeness equals danger. But then, something strange happens. The very thing they run from is the very thing they long for. Because no matter how much they deny it, they are human, and humans need connection. Humans need warmth. Humans need love. So they run from you, but then ache for you. They close the door, but still peek through the window. They cut the tie, but keep the string. This is the unbearable paradox of the avoidant. They want love, but fear it. They fear abandonment, but recreate it. They seek closeness, but punish it. And here's the truth most people never hear. Their silence isn't indifference. It's a test not of you, but of their own limits. How long can I be away before I break? How much silence can I endure before I reach back out? How much distance can I create before the emptiness swallows me? Their silence is their experiment, and you are caught in the middle of it. So when they finally come back, when they finally return too late, it's not because they didn't care. It's because they reached the edge of their own loneliness. You became the person they thought of. When the emptiness became too much, you became the comfort they couldn't admit they needed. You became the home they swore they didn't want, but couldn't live without. But by the time they circle back, you've lived through nights of confusion. You've carried the weight of unanswered questions. You've wondered if you were ever enough. And this is why their return feels cruel. Because while they were running from love, you were starving for it. While they were escaping closeness, you were begging for it. While they were testing their limits, you were breaking under them. Two different experiences, two different costs. They think their silence bought them safety, but in reality, their silence made you doubt yourself. And this is the unspoken damage of avoidant timing. It convinces you to question you, instead of seeing the truth. The truth that they're leaving isn't proof of your unworthiness. It's proof of their fear. The truth that their silence isn't a verdict on your value. It's a reflection of their wounds. The truth that their return isn't random. It's their hunger for the very love they once fled. But here's the secret. They don't know how to admit this. Because to admit it would mean admitting that they need you, admitting that they feel, admitting that their walls don't actually protect them. They isolate them. And that's terrifying. So instead, they mask it. They return casually, like nothing happened. They reach out subtly, like you should already know. They test the waters, like it's safer to pretend than to tell the truth. And once again, you are left doing the work, to read between the lines. Is this real? Is this temporary? Will they stay this time? But their timing rarely answers those questions because their timing isn't about love. It's about fear. Too soon because closeness triggers panic. Too late because distance triggers emptiness. This is the avoidant clock. And if you love one, you've probably felt trapped by it because your heart beats on a different rhythm. You value consistency. They value control. You crave presence. They crave safety. You move toward love. They move away from it. Two rhythms, two clocks, never aligned. And yet, somewhere in between, you still meet. That's why you still remember their touch. That's why you still replay their words. That's why, despite the pain, you still can't let go. Because even in their fear, they connect. Even in their silence, they feel. Even in their distance, they care. They just can't time it right. And until they heal that fear, until they learn to stay present with discomfort, instead of running from it, their love will always arrive out of sync. Too soon when it hurts you, too late when it matters most. And the cost of that timing isn't just the relationship, it's your sense of self. It's your ability to trust. It's your belief in love itself. Because every time they leave too soon, you wonder if you asked for too much. Every time they return too late, you wonder if you were worth the wait. But the truth is, it was never about your worth. It was always about their wounds. Their clock was set long before you, and until they reset it, their love will always be mistimed. The avoidant believes their timing keeps them safe. Leave before you're left. Withdraw before you're hurt. Return only when it feels safe enough. To them, this rhythm is protection. It's order in the chaos. It's control over the unpredictable. But every survival strategy has a hidden cost. And for the avoidant, that cost is higher than they know. Because when they leave too soon, they never get to see what real safety could have felt like. They never allow love to prove them wrong. They never allow closeness to settle into calm. They cut off the experiment before the results could show. So their fear never gets challenged. It only gets repeated, confirmed, strengthened. Every time they run, they train their nervous system to believe. Yes, closeness is danger. Yes, love is unsafe. Yes, the only way to live is alone. And then, when they return too late, the cost doubles. Because in their absence, something changed. You changed. You learned to live with questions. You learned to carry the silence. You learned to brace yourself for the next withdrawal. And maybe, you even built walls of your own. So when they come back, it isn't a clean return. It's a collision. Their need meets your wounds. Their longing meets your distrust. And suddenly, the timing that was meant to protect them ends up hurting both of you. Here's the cruel paradox. What they thought was survival creates the very pain they tried to avoid. They run from rejection, but their running causes you to feel rejected. They run from abandonment, but their leaving creates abandonment. They run from heartbreak, but their mistimed return ensures a fractured bond. This is the cycle that keeps the avoidant stuck. A cycle where the protection is the poison. And what about you? You pay a cost too. A cost that most people never see. Because loving an avoidant reshapes your nervous system as well. At first, you wait with patience. You tell yourself they just need time. You remind yourself they care in their own way. But the longer it goes on, the more it changes you. You learn to hold back parts of yourself. You stop asking for too much. You shrink your needs just to keep them close. And this is the silent danger. You start abandoning yourself so they don't abandon you. That is the cost of their timing. Their silence makes you question your voice. Their absence makes you question your worth. Their distance makes you question your love. And while they think they're protecting themselves, they are teaching you to live in uncertainty. You start pacing your heart to their rhythm, pulling back when they do, reaching out only when it feels safe, never knowing when the next departure will come. It's exhausting. It's destabilizing. It's lonely. But here's something rarely said. The avoidant pays this cost too, because the more they run, the less capable they become of staying. The more they withdraw, the less able they are to trust. The more they mistime love, the more love feels impossible. And so their survival becomes its own kind of slow death. They don't feel the safety they long for. They don't feel the intimacy they secretly crave. They don't feel the love they desperately need. They only feel the cycle, leaving too soon, returning too late, always missing the moment where love could grow. This is the tragedy of the avoidance clock. It doesn't just cost you, it costs them. It costs the relationship. It costs the chance at a love that could have healed them. Because timing in love is everything. And when your timing is always out of sync, love becomes a series of almosts. Almost safe, almost close, almost lasting, but never quite. And here's the hardest truth. The longer this pattern repeats, the harder it becomes to break. Because both of you adapt. They adapt to leaving. You adapt to waiting. And in the adaptation, the cycle hardens. What once felt like confusion becomes normal. What once felt like pain becomes familiar. What once felt unbearable becomes expected. And familiarity is powerful. Even if it hurts, it feels like home. That's why so many people stay stuck. Not because they don't see the pattern, but because they've adjusted to it. They've normalized it. They've built their heart around it. And that is the hidden cost. Not just the tears, not just the confusion, not just the late night wondering. The cost is that love itself gets rewritten. Love becomes waiting. Love becomes silence. Love becomes inconsistency. Love becomes pain. And that is not love. That is survival disguised as love. That is timing mistaken for destiny. That is fear pretending to be control. And if you've lived through this cycle, you know the ache of it. The ache of watching someone leave too soon and return too late. The ache of carrying hope that never arrives on time. The ache of realizing you've lost pieces of yourself just trying to match their rhythm. And yet, there's something deeper underneath this ache, a truth most people don't say, that even in all this mistiming, the avoidant isn't cruel. They're wounded. They're scared. They're trapped in a clock they didn't set. And until they learn to reset it, to stay instead of run, to return before it's too late, love will always feel just out of reach. They don't leave because they stop caring. They don't return because they suddenly care again. The truth is simpler and more painful. They leave too soon because their body is ruled by fear, and they return too late because their body is ruled by longing. Fear pushes them out, longing pulls them back, and in between those forces is the cycle that breaks your heart. For the avoidant, leaving feels like safety. It's the only move they trust. They don't think, if I walk away, I'll lose them forever. They think, if I walk away, I'll finally breathe again. They confuse distance with oxygen. They confuse closeness with drowning. So they leave, not because you failed them, but because their nervous system failed them. But the irony is cruel. The safety they run to always betrays them, because once they are gone, their mind begins to ache, not for strangers, not for quiet, not for the empty bed, but for you, the one they told themselves they didn't need, the one they convinced themselves they could live without, the one they left to protect themselves from love. This is the secret timing of the avoidant. They leave at the moment their heart most needs to stay. They return at the moment when their return matters least. By the time they miss you, You've already carried the weight of their silence. You've already asked yourself if you weren't enough. You've already rebuilt pieces of your life without them. And so, when they reappear, you feel both relief and rage. Because you waited for them yesterday, and they only showed up today. The avoidance clock doesn't run like yours. Your time moves with connection. Their time moves with distance when you are close. You count every second as precious when they are close. They count every second as dangerous when you are apart. You count the silence as abandonment. When they are apart, they count the silence as safety. Two clocks, two timelines, and neither one tells the same story. But here's what no one tells you. The avoidant does not return without scars. When they finally miss you, it isn't just nostalgia, it's grief. Because they know deep down, they sabotaged something real. They know they pulled away, not because you failed, but because their fear won. And when they come back, they are not coming back to a clean slate. They are coming back to the ruins they created. This is why their return feels so heavy. Because they want comfort, but they also carry guilt. They want your presence, but they also fear your truth. They want love, but they don't want the mirror you hold up. The mirror that says, you left, and it hurt. So what do? When the avoidant returns too late, you breathe. You remember. You decide. Because here is the quiet power they never expect. You don't have to let their timing dictate your healing. They may leave too soon. They may return too late. But you get to choose whether their clock still runs your life. And this is the moment. Everything changes. Because the avoidant is not the only one with a cycle. You have one too. The cycle of waiting. The cycle of hoping. The cycle of believing their timing was the measure of your worth. But now, you see the truth. Their leaving wasn't about your value. Their silence wasn't about your lovability. Their return wasn't proof that you were unforgettable. It was proof that they were unhealed. You can love them. You can grieve them. You can even welcome them. But you cannot let their delayed return be the reason you abandon yourself. Because the secret timing of the avoidant does not have to be the story of your life. So, if you are listening to this, and you've been waiting for someone to come back, hear me. You are not a holding place. You are not a pause button. You are not a half-finished story, waiting for their rewrite. You are whole, even in their absence, especially in their absence. And when they finally return, if they do, you get to decide, is this a reunion or is this closure? Because love is not about timing. Love is about truth. And the truth is this: you deserve someone who stays, not someone who only learns to miss you when you're already gone. So let me leave you with this. If their leaving broke you and their return confused you, let this be your reminder. You don't need their timing to be right for your healing to begin. The moment you choose yourself, your timing becomes perfect. Because the avoidant may live in delay, but you are allowed to live in now. And that is where freedom begins. If this touched you, stay with this channel. Because here, you're reminded of what love really is. Not fear, not delay, not cycles of leaving and returning, but presence, but safety, but truth. And if you've been living on someone else's clock, this is your invitation to finally reset to your own. Because your love deserves better timing. And so do you.